We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today. Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It is Ask Gibbo with me and John Gibson. How are you, John?
I'm good, my friend. All the better for last night.
Yes, fantastic game at St James's Park. Newcastle drawn 3-3 with champions-elect Liverpool. Great game, John, and gone either way. 1-0 up, 1-1, 2-1 up, 2-2, 3-2 down, and then a 3-3 draw with Newcastle, of course, having a chance potentially at the end to seal it and put us out of our misery of 25 plus years ago when we got beat at Anfield 4-3. We could have had a Collymore moment ourselves with Alexander Isak. We'll never know now because the referee blew his whistle. But John, let's start with that. What did you make of the game?
I thought it was absolutely brilliant, pulsating. It was a throwback to all that was good, that is good about Newcastle United, playing at a huge tempo, pressing high, full of enthusiasm, non-stop aggression. I mean, my only concern at half-time when we're 1-0 up, I said, we've played absolutely magnificent, but can we keep this pace up for another 45 minutes, given the quality of the opposition we had? And we did so. If we'd lost, it would have been a travesty of justice. When you think of this Liverpool side, they came here under Slot this season. They had won 18 of their 20 games in all competitions, drawn 1 and lost 1. They just beat the champions of England, Manchester City, the champions of Spain and Europe, Real Madrid, and the champions of Germany, Bayer Leverkusen. And they come here and they've never had as tough a game in that run as we give them last night. It was an absolute joy to watch, and we deserved 3 points out of that. Both sides should have got 3 points instead of just 1 point. It seemed just a meager return for such a Herculean effort. It was great, and but I had funny emotions, Steve. When I come out the ground and I'm going from a car and my thoughts are swirling around in your head and you hear all the banter, the punters, and everybody's buzzing, and I was absolutely elated with our performance. And then by I got to the car, there was a little bit of anger in me. And if I can explain what that was, it was just, hey, where were you at Palace? You were that good tonight. 10 of the same team, the only change was Murphy for Willock. 10 of the same team started at Palace, and the performance down there was absolutely awful. And, and for that matter, where were we against West Ham? And it just annoyed me because that a little while feeling thrilled to bits at the same time, because Newcastle are capable of that. And I felt that our big star players, for example, the two guys up front, Isak and Gordon, that was the guys we know, wasn't it? That was the guys that when Gordon first come to us after his second half of his season, becoming England international, that was Isak that's got everybody drooling. It was them perfectly. But Where have they been? That, I think about it and I think, do I come to the conclusion that our superstar names only like to play when they're at the London Palladium, like, and lesser theatres don't stir the blood as much. We don't stir the blood by going to Palace, but by Jove, we stir the blood by playing Liverpool in front of the whole world, really, because it's live on telly, everybody's taking it there, runaway leaders, and we were truly magnificent. If we could only get consistency into our performances, and perhaps that means attitude is well. If we could get up for the so-called smaller matches, if we can get up for them the way we got up, obviously, for Liverpool, we would be where we want to be and not where we are, which is 10th in the league. But take nothing away from last night, it was marvellous. But I couldn't help thinking back to Palace, because if we played like that against Palace, Steve, we would have blew them away.
Yeah, 100%. There's no doubt about it. But it's different games. Different games bring out different things in the team. That's the problem. And some teams could come and sniff you out. They can suss you out. They come with a different formation. Liverpool suited us last night. They aren't going to sit back. Not with somebody like Mohamed Salah in the team, and it really did suit us. And Newcastle had their intensity. They had that counter-attacking game. But you are right, and I get your anger. I was similar when I was coming out the ground, and where were they against West Ham and Crystal Palace, and disappointing games. We would have all been very happy had we come out of the Palace game with 3 points. Of course, we wouldn't have been looking at the stats. We wouldn't have been looking at the fact that we didn't have a shot on target. But we didn't, and we came away with a point against a very poor Palace team, and a lose at home against West Ham was unforgivable. But hopefully that has reinvigorated the team, John, because there's no doubt about it. We haven't been great this season. We haven't been firing on all cylinders, but we've managed to get the results. And the way this Premier League is at the moment, even Liverpool, who probably felt as if they'd won last night, they would have been moving further away and from the chasing pack. But it's a strange league this season, John. It really is. You put a run together, yourself in places or in the running for the title still.
It is a strange league, but it's a strange Newcastle United, because if you look at us, we beat Arsenal up here. We beat Spurs up here. We beat Chelsea up here in the League Cup. We deny Manchester City victory when it was the old Manchester City who were champions, not the ones that have just imploded. Now we deny Liverpool victory, but we lose at home to Brighton. We lose at home to West Ham. We lose at Fulham. We can't beat Everton and Bournemouth and Crystal Palace. I mean, there's a consistency there, and it is that we're inconsistent. We get up for the big games, and we do not get up for the allegedly smaller teams. And that worries me, because then that leads me to the question, what do we do on Saturday? Now, if we play the badge, then we're in trouble. But if we play the team, we're not. And if I can explain what that is, me saying if we play the badge, then we're playing Brentford. The badge is Brentford, and you can think small club by Premier League standards, etc., etc. If we play that in our mind, then we get the results we got against Everton and against Bournemouth and against Crystal Palace. But if we play the team, because the team is the best team at home in the whole of the Premier League. They've got a better home record than Liverpool, because Liverpool's lost once at home to Nottingham Forest. They've got the best home record in the Premier League. So if we play with that in mind, we'll get up for it and we'll get a result. But which team, what attitude will we take onto the pitch? Because we need our blue chip players to play well. You see, we know what we're going to get from Big Dan Burn every week. He's going to be Big Dan Burn. He's going to be big-hearted. He's going to give it absolutely everything. He's going to be sure to pace, but you know what you get. We're not certain what we're going to get from the big names. Last night, we almost are certain if we're playing Arsenal or we're playing Liverpool, we're going to, the performances of, I thought, Gordon and Isak was absolutely outstanding. The midfield performances of Tonali and Bruno almost blew away the thought that they can't play together because they looked absolutely outstanding. But that was against Liverpool. What will we be against Brentford?
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting to see.
Yeah, there was a question there just about what you were talking about. Who do you think that is down to? Eddie's lack of motivation, would you say? Barry's asking.
I mean, I'm not certain I would because I honestly think, Steve, that every player's got to look at himself. Every player's got to look in the mirror and said, am I fussed? Am I only bothered about the big games? Am I only bothered when I'm on the London Palladium stage? Am I only bothered when the whole world's watching? Even if it's subconscious, Steve, even if they don't realise this is happening. I mean, you look at what Isak was capable of doing and what Gordon was capable of doing. Now, they didn't do it against West Ham. They didn't do it against Palace, and I know Isak was off in 20 odd minutes, but he hadn't looked it. But boy, did they look giants against Liverpool. And I think players have got to look at themselves and say, I've got to be up for more in the big games. I don't want to just impress when I'm top of the bill at the London Palladium. When I come out to put a social club, I've got to do it there as well. You can't all be Tom Jones in London and not the local guy in the local social club. You've got to be able to, the big teams do it week in, week out, whoever the opposition is. And I think that's as much, it's a problem that's almost got to, each player's got to look at himself and think. And then perhaps look at somebody that's got less God given talent like Dan Burn and say, does he play his heart out every week? And the answer is yes, he does. And if we all do that, we'll be fine, mate. But if we do it because the opposition warrants it, then what do we get at Brentford? And what do we get when Leicester come up here after Brentford?
Yeah, lots of questions coming in. Keep them coming in. It is Ask Gibbo. Roger says, John, do you think Eddie Howe got angry with the team before the Liverpool game, let alone them being league leader? Can he do it again before Saturday? There was also talk of Dan Burn and Fabian Shaw having a few words with their teammates after the Palace game on Saturday night, John.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing, that there was words passed, but not involving the manager in the dispute, but taking it up with some of the players on the lines. I think that I've just been talking now, Steve. Hey, who are we? Are we as good as we think we are? If we are as good as we think we are, then why are we share the points with Palace? And by the way, only got a 1-1 draw without having a shot on target, which is almost a trick question in some, isn't it? How do you get a 1-1 draw when you don't have a shot on target? I mean, I heard that happened, and I think it ought to happen because, and I'm not having to go, I'm using Isak and Gordon, I'm not having to go at them in particular, but they looked wonderful. They looked, the players I recognised. Gordon looked England's outside left. Isak looked £100 million centre forward. Scored a worldie. Gordon scored as well against the best team in Europe at the moment. And, I want that performance at Crystal Palace, and I want it now at Brentford and home to Leicester. I don't want to wait until we've got another toughie and feel reassured. We can almost walk to the ground, Steve, being more reassured if we're playing Arsenal and we're playing Chelsea and we're playing Liverpool than when we play Leicester in the next home game, like when we play West Ham in the last home game before Liverpool. It's intriguing, and it just frustrates me a little bit because I want some more, much more from my team, and I know each player is capable. I mean, they're more than capable. The players I've mentioned, I thought Tonali was terrific, breaking from 6, and I think it's probably the best game in a little while that Bruno's had. And that was good to see. There was nobody played badly, but I want to see it again and again. You can't just turn it on in that game and then go and have a cigar for 3 weeks and then think, oh, I better, you know, get my reputation back up to where it should be. So we'll rip somebody to shreds. We scored 3 goals against Liverpool. When are they taken to bits with 3 goals against them? And but for the referee, it could have been a lot more. We could have had a penalty. Dick Van Dyke, by the way, he sounded like Dick Van Dyke when he was stuck on his backside by Isaac on the first goal. I mean, he's supposed to be the best centre half in the Premier League, and in lots of ways, there isn't an argument against that. But I mean, Alex sat him down, no problem. Like, just sit down there, Bonnie lad, while I stick this in the back of the net. I mean, it was a wonderful effort, and I just want to see more of it because we are capable of doing it more. And, for me, I'm so thrilled to bits and invigorated by that performance. But you know what? It'll tell me a lot about a lot of players individually, what they produced at Brentford on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll come to that, and a couple of questions coming in about the Brentford game, so I'll keep them for the second half. Alan, you're right. He said we should have been playing against 10 men in the second half. That forearm smash on Anthony Gordon was blatantly nasty. Yeah, Van Dijk again. It was a good old fashioned body check, wasn't it? And because of the height difference, it was a nasty one. I mean, Gordon had gone down. And should have put us 2-0 ahead at that particular opportunity. But then Van Dijk came across and VAR looked at it, John, but clearly thought there was nothing wrong with it.
Well, I mean, I can understand at times. They don't like to go against the referee unless it's blatantly obvious. But I'm not, for me, it was a penalty when Isaac was dropped in the penalty area.
Yeah.
I thought that was a penalty.
In real time, it didn't really look as much because I was right at that end and it didn't look like a penalty. But when I watched it back on TV, it's clearly a penalty.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, can you tell me, while we have a little rant, because there's nothing like a little rant, we all enjoy that, can you tell me why the referee or how the referee plays whistle for full time when a terrific throw-out by Nick Pope has seen us with about 3-2 at the back. We are attacking their goal. Now, it's an unwritten law, if not a written law in football, that if you're a referee, you blow the final whistle when the ball is either dead, just gone out of play, or it's in the centre of the field. There's no advantage to either team. But if a team's attacking the penalty area, you let the play finish, that episode of play finish, and then you blow the whistle. He blew the whistle there, and we could have got, as we were talking off camera, we could have got a 4-3, which was in our favour, instead of it being in Liverpool's favour at the end, because we were in a terrific position to do that. And I thought the referee all the way through was poor, Steve. On a night where there was a lot of stars on the pitch on both sides, I thought the ref was poor.
Yes, certainly. I mean, he carded plenty of players as well. Probably spoilt the flow of the game to a degree. But lots of questions coming in. Barry wants to know if you felt that Gordon's dummy came out again when Eddie asked him to play centre forward. Didn't look happy at coming off, John.
No. I also think that his dummy come out at Crystal Palace, and I would suggest, and I don't know anything here, I'm suggesting that perhaps in the week between Palace, well, it wasn't a week, it was a few days between Palace and Liverpool, I think Anthony might have reminded his gaffer that he's England's outside left. That's his best position. That's where he was bought by the club to play. And could I please play there against Liverpool because I want to do the business, and that's the best position that I can do the business from. And once that decision was made, and I do believe there was a conscious decision made to play Gordon in his best position. Once that happened, we didn't have an outside right, and Joe Linton had to play midfield because he can't play on the left wing and he won't play on the right wing. He went back in the midfield. Willock was poor at Palace, but he wasn't the only one. But Joe Linton went back in the midfield because of his physicality, because of the job he can do there, and that left us. We've got no right wing, so that left us with just Jacob Murphy, who did okay. I think Murphy did okay, but he is what he is. He's a bench player, who does well when he comes on. That's his best role, and I like to see him doing that. And you know what? during that famous walk back for the car after the game, when everything was buzzing around my mind, Steve, and was obviously buzzing around yours, I would think. One of the things that struck me, I thought, what's the difference between Newcastle and Liverpool? Now, I just meant on the night. We know what the difference is over the season. Consistency. They consistently win and we consistently don't. That's the huge difference. But on the night, for me, one of the major differences was we have not an outside right, with due respect to Murphy. We haven't, because that's what we're looking for in the transfer market. And they've got one of the best outside rights in the world, because Mo Salah has a first half where somebody said to me off time down in the press room afterwards, said, "Hey, is Mo Salah playing? I've never seen him." And I said, "Don't say that, son. Please don't say that, because there's another 45 minutes to go and he might introduce himself to us." And what did he do? He introduced himself to us. He scored 2 goals and made the other one. And we haven't got an outside right, and they've got somebody as good as that. Do you realise now Mo Salah has scored 15 goals this season and got 12 assists? He scored 15 goals and he's not even a centre forward, Steve.
Yeah.
So our whole team put together, have only scored 17 goals, and he's got 15 as a winger. I mean, that's the difference. And one of the small things, and I love the lad to pieces. I'm talking about Lewis Hall. And if there's a situation and his feet's on the ground and he deserves all the praise he's got this season because he had such a tough time last season. But if you want something to make certain, son, keep your feet on the ground. You're still learning. You're going to be a super duper player, but don't think you're there already. If somebody's saying that because he's become a regular Premier League star, he's become a full England international, then the second 45 minutes against Mo Salah was a learning curve. He would go home last night and think, "I am a good player. I have come a long way. But oh dear me, I'm glad I don't play Salah every week." Because for 45 minutes, Salah absolutely, made him realise what football at the very, very highest level, and he's playing for England now, so that we're talking of the highest level, what it's all about. He sat him down, 2 goals. One of them was Lewis's fault when he lost the ball and then he couldn't get close to Salah. 2 goals plus one made. And Lewis will learn from that, because he had been terrific in the first half in his passing of the ball, etc., etc. But that was a little lesson to him, all capsulated in 45 minutes.
Yeah, certainly was. Eamon McParlin, good evening. He said, "Stephen John, I don't think it's appreciated that big Dan Burn has played that well. We haven't missed Sven Botman as much as we feared, lads." I mean, Dan Burn, again, Colossus last night, alongside Fabian Shaw, who pitched in with another important goal, John.
Yeah, yes, absolutely so. Absolutely so. Burn does what Burn does, as I've said. Heart the size of a frying pan. You will get the same from Dan Burn week in, week out. You won't get the same from Isaac or Gordon or not in, week out. They're up and down more on a fiddler's elbow. Whereas Dan Burn has that level of consistency, huge heart, 8'6", gets everything in there. Yes, he's one-paced and always will be, and he'll get skinned in certain situations, but you know what you'll get from. Shaw comes up with a goal yet again. We don't score from midfield. Bruno's got no goals this season. Tonali's got no goals this season. Willock's got no goals this season. We don't score from midfield, but Shaw weighs in from the back. And that goal was so important because we were going to lose 3-2. And undeservedly so. And you know the difference on that goal, Steve, if you looked at it again afterwards on the replays, it was a terrific clanger by their goalkeeper, who had played well, by the way. The deputy goalkeeper for them, the Republic of Ireland goalkeeper, had played well. But he thought that cross was going outside the back post and he was letting it go so he could just take a goal kick and waste some time. He gave up on the ball deliberately. Shaw didn't. Shaw followed it in, stretched, got a foot to it and turned it into net. Well done, Shaw. Very poor keeping by the keeper.
Yeah, a keeper we've actually looked at. If you're going to believe some of the rumours, good keeper. Yeah, he just had one of those. He just had one of those nights. I think, unfortunately for him, but fortunately for us. So that's that's a great thing to look at. let's get back into the questions. We're going to have another couple of questions hopefully before we go into the break. Barry, good evening. He says, John, what is Howe doing now? Tonali, much better than Bruno in that position. I mean, the midfield balance has changed a couple of times this season, John, but I like the way that they set up last night. And you've already mentioned Murphy. You know, Howe's often criticised playing square pegs in round holes. I think he played square pegs in square cutout holes yesterday. I think he did really well. He picked the right team, and I think, you know, Murphy, you're right, impact player, good coming on from the bench, but I think he's the best that we've got at the moment. I think Miggy, for all his endeavour and he's running around, sometimes, you know, he had that little flourish under Howe. I think his legs possibly can't cope with the Premier League anymore. I think Murphy's your best option, but that Tonali-Bruno combination worked yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, yes, as I say, I mean, Miggy is sitting in the departure lounge in Newcastle Airport, just waiting to see which plane he's getting on to leave in January. I mean, you know, when you don't get starts, and we've got the right wing problem we have, and you don't get starts, you know what's happening. And Newcastle are making certain that he's got the message this time, bless him, and he'll go with all our thanks for what he's done. You've got to play Murphy because you haven't got another chance. And you're right, don't put. What we did was have round pegs and round holes. We didn't play Murphy or Joe Linton or Harvey Barnes outside right, although Barnes came on and had to play there later on. We tried to. In the summer, when we knew Tonali was coming back from his ban, we thought that the midfield three would be Bruno, Tonali, and Joe Linton, all international players. And we thought they would cause problems in the Premier League. What happened when they did play is that they didn't go together right, particularly Tonali and Bruno. There was a discussion at the press conference just before the Liverpool game in which the whole topic, which was discussed by Eddie, was can they play together? Because they want to do each other's job. Nobody wants to sit, they want to both go. I think I mentioned on here last week that, you know, when Joe Harvey had two midfield players exactly like that in Eiley and in Anderson when Newcastle won promotion in 65, the first team Joe built of his three teams at Newcastle. People say they couldn't play together because there wasn't a sitter and there wasn't somebody that went. And Joe found a way to play them together, and we won the championship that year. Last night was the first shoots that were found a way for Bruno and Tonali to play together. And that Bruno Tonali plays centre of the three, is allowed to break when he breaks. Bruno can tuck in, then Bruno can break. They sort of go in tandem in the way that Anderson and Eiley did all those years ago. There's nothing new in football, you know. Everything's happened before, Steve. It's regurgitated. It's like trousers. Drainpipe trousers become flares and they're now drain pipes again, but they've all been seen before. It always happens that way. And these were the first shoots. And Tonali, Joe, I think Eddie's got to sit down Tonali this week, and I'm certain he has done or he will do, and he's got to sit with him and say, Sandro, I've got to let you know that we paid £52 million for you because we thought you're a good player. We still think you're a good player. We don't want you to feel that you're a big player here and absolutely instrumental in the way Italy played in the national level. We want you to be as big as a hitter in our team as you are in the Italian team. And if they reassure him and keep his chin up and keep him positive, they can play Bruno one side and Joe Linton the other side. It showed last night. There's work to be done on it. And Tonali and Bruno have got to be disciplined in doing the right work at the right time and not just go gung-ho all over the park. But it can be done. And we've got to get Tonali into this team. We paid a fortune for him. He's got far too much talent. And if he sits on our bench and then goes and stars every international break for Italy, he'll quickly get sick of being here. So we've got to get that sorted. And that was a step forward last night.
Certainly was. Halfway through the show, time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to United Group Travel, who are our fanzine sponsors. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew driver and courier, a local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Website is www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. You can find them at media-arts.co.uk. And a big thanks to Sport Social. You can find them at sport-social.co.uk, where we are now available as an audio podcast. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, then please hit the subscribe button under this video today. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to share to your other social media. We've got a few events coming up in the run-up to Christmas and after New Year. The NUFC Matters Christmas party takes place at Tyneside Irish Centre in aid of Newcastle's Cat and Dog Shelter. Tickets are £10 from newcastlelegends.com. The event takes place Saturday the 28th of December, 7 to 11, and our special guests are Nobby Solano and Joe Allen. The Long Sands will be at the Clooney in aid of the Newcastle Cat and Dog Shelter. Tickets are from the Clooney themselves or newcastlelegends.com, and tickets are priced at £15. Peter Beardsley will be at the Irish Centre, and that is on the 10th of January. Doors are 7 o'clock, and tickets are from newcastlelegends.com. You can also buy some tickets for that event at Woucher. And there is an evening with the entertainers on the 24th of January 2025. Box office is 0191 243 1171 or the website Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk for tickets. And Lee Clark is at the Gateshead Leisure Centre on the 31st of January. You can contact Gateshead Leisure Centre direct for those tickets. Don't forget as well, Will Scott's book on the entertainers is selling well and is available from newcastlelegends.com or from the Backpage shops in Newcastle and the Metro Centre and from Amazon.
Okay, welcome back to NUFC Matters. Delighted to say, John, we have a special guest coming on today, and it is, there we go, it is the Bishop of Newcastle. Welcome to Helen Ann Hartley. How are you?
Oh, good, Canny. Yeah, good evening. Great to be here.
Great
Good evening. I like that jumper, if I may say so. It's the colours are absolutely top of the range.
I know. Well, I have to be, suitably attired to make sense of my role, really.
Of course you have. Excellent.
Fantastic. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. And the reason I reached out
Pleasure.
is because obviously our connections with the food bank, we've raised over £20,000 on this show for the food bank over the last 4 years, just through our wonderful viewers. And I noticed that you were obviously a patron of the food bank, and noticed that you were busy pushing on your social media on X the big campaign, the Christmas campaign, the Christmas appeal, and a wonderful video that's been circulating. I've retweeted it a couple of times. It's unfortunate in this day and era that we need to have food banks, but I just wanted to invite you on just to have a chance to promote it a bit more.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve, and John. Good to see you as well. It's I think I was really honoured when I was asked to become a patron of the food bank, because it does such important work, and it's much more than just about the food, isn't it? It's about the way in which community is held and fostered and looked after. And so So when John McCrory, the CEO, invited me to be a patron, I was all in. And I think what I've really noticed, and since then, obviously, often you'll see me at the start of before a match out shaking my bucket with my husband, and you have there's such a lot of dedication and such a lot of, it brings out the best in people. And I think uniquely what we have here in Newcastle and amongst the supporter network of Newcastle United, there's a real commitment to look after one another, for all the rivalry and the challenges of life. I think there's a real commitment to. So for me, in my role as Bishop of Newcastle, to have an involvement in a grassroots thing like that, but one which, as you say, unfortunately is still very much needed, but which actually celebrates the best of community as well. It's a brilliant thing.
The connection with the football club is very important as well, because Jamie Rubin, obviously one of our owners, has kindly over his first few years at the club agreed to double any cash donations on the day.
Yes, it's extraordinary actually. I mean, it makes a massive difference. And certainly, I ran the Great North Run this year in the pouring rain, and helped raise money for the food bank. And I think it's that, I have to say, it did motivate me. I forget where I lost the will to run at mile, whatever it was, because it was such a shocker of a day. But again, there's something about the Northeast, and there's something about the generosity. And isn't that wonderful that Jamie Rubin does that too? I mean, he doesn't have to do that. Let's remember that. He chooses to do that. And that, I think, that just makes everybody feel like it's worth, it adds capacity to what we try to do, what the food bank tries to do. And the T-shirts as well, they've got now. I saw them on sale in Phoenix. So Newcastle Foods fans for Food Bank. It's just great. It's a great initiative.
No, it's fantastic. Go on, John.
It's just a wonderful thing. I think Geordie's almost, I know I'm biased, but they almost lend themselves to situations like this because they do want to help. And this time of year is a particular time to put a spotlight on it. And I think everything around the ground, the way the Geordies help the food bank, the way war flags create an atmosphere before the game, this is seeing Geordies at the best. This is what we do well, if you like. The only thing we've ever been let down on is once the whistle's gone for the start of a game, but luckily that doesn't happen much these days, so that's a good thing. I think it lends itself to the way Geordies are, and it brings out the best in people, which I love, because sometimes when you see social media, etc., this world is not the easiest one to live in. There's a lot of people out there that are cynical, nothing to do with Newcastle United or football particularly, I'm thinking of. So it's good to have something that concentrates on the pluses of the game and what is good about the nature of football, because this is a wonderful game that's been happening in this city for 132 years. It ain't going away, and it bonds us together, and this is a good time to do it and to help others that aren't as fortunate as we are. But this is the sort of working class area that does that.
Yeah, I'm always moved by when you're collecting with a bucket, just all generations, just come and just chuck something in, and there's just a, you do have that sense of human connection, that thing that sort of levels us all, and for me that, it's. And I suppose at this point, as you may know, of course, I did grow up in Sunderland, John.
Yeah.
Steve.
Well, yes. Somebody has to. Luckily, you've escaped and you found the right terms to wear, not a red and white.
I've headed north.
You've lost the plan.
Well, no, I know I've been all over the place, but this for me coming into this role is like coming home, and I think that sense of what the food bank provides, that foundation, that support for people, it's always there. But it's as I keep saying, it's not just about the literal food stuff. It's about what it enables people to connect, people who might be isolated or lonely, and it connects everybody together in a strength of community, and that's what we see the very best in the football side of things too.
Yeah, very true, very true. We haven't had a chance to plug what's happening this Friday as well. If you haven't been to Newcastle Cathedral, get yourself along there. I managed to get along earlier this year. Just had a couple of days off, and I thought I'm going to have a look around our city. And there's some fantastic places to go, and there's so much restoration work and that was taking place at the cathedral. And if you've never been in, go in. Honestly, you'll learn so much about the area, the region, and you can you look at that particular building from the outside. it doesn't do it justice. Get yourself inside and have a look. But this Friday, it's the celebration of St. Nicholas Day, isn't it, Bishop?
It is. That's right. Yeah, St. Nicholas, the patron saint, Nicholas of Smyrna, who was well known for his gift givings. He was a bishop, a bit like me. But so we've got a big service there on Friday evening where we're installing some new cannons. A cannon is a sort of honorary ecclesiastical thing. It's not like a literal, firing gun. We're not installing something like that because we're all about peace. But it should be a great. And we've got the choir from Durham Cathedral coming through as well for that. So it'll be a big thing. But yeah, if you've never been into the cathedral, come in because it's free. It's a great space just to be. There's a great cafe, just a place to come and sit and reflect right in the heart of the city. So yeah, it's a great place.
And you can say a prayer for Newcastle in there, can't you? It's not out of order to say a prayer for your football team.
No, you can light a candle or two. You can offer special prayer intentions at different parts of the cathedral, so, yep.
If you have any spare cannons, Bishop, and you can let us have one to put alongside Isaac and get us a few goals, we'll be more than happy.
All right. Well, last night's game was. I was following it on I was in Berwick yesterday for the day, and I got on the train at Berwick Station with a sea of Newcastle United folk, and it would have been. I don't know. It seemed like they played really well last night.
It was a fabulous game. Both sides played well. Newcastle were absolutely outstanding. It's the Newcastle we love and we want to see, and we all left with a very good Christmas feeling about the night. We just need that to continue on Saturday when Newcastle play again and the next home game. But hopefully everybody's got the spirit of Christmas, and not just with the rattling of the buckets, which is very important, but with the sound of the referee's whistle to start the game, because we want a Christmas present of a few 3-pointers.
Well, I'm good. I'm actually coming to my first Newcastle men's game, the Leicester game on the 14th. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, that's good news. That's good news. And don't forget that you might be a Mackem, but you shout for us. We are the ones in the black and white stripes,
Well, I've got, I'll be wearing this amongst other things. So just to clarify. Of course. I've got the hat. I've got a hat as well.
Just one final thing. People can, other than at the cathedral, find you as well as you're a broadcaster. You do a little bit of broadcasting yourself.
I do. I really enjoy doing Pause for Thought on the Zoe Ball Breakfast Show on Radio 2. So I'll be doing that next Friday morning. And again, just after Christmas. So I really enjoy doing that actually. And it's amazing the reach, actually, people that do tune in and do listen, and it always gives me a chance to sort of share something of the region as well when I do that. So I look forward to that. That's next Friday.
We're big Zoe Ball fans in this house, so
Excellent.
We'll be definitely listening to you then, Bishop.
Brilliant. Smashing.
Fantastic. Well, that was our pleasure. Helen Ann Hartley, the Bishop of Newcastle. Enjoy your first game. Maybe we might get you back on just to find out whether you did it and did you enjoy your first game.
I'd love to do that, Steve. Thanks so much. It's been great to be on. Nice to meet you too, John.
Fantastic.
Thanks now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great to have Helen on. Wonderful to hear the work she's doing for the food bank as well. And you all know where the food bank is situated pre-match. Get yourself over to the food bank stall and drop in whatever change you can at each home game. But you can also click on that link that I've just stuck in the chat. And if you want to help out online, then you can do. And I've already noticed a few of you have already said you're up for doing that. So thank you very much for that. I just want to touch on a couple of these. Alan McKenzie says, evening, John. Mozzer and me bumped into Jinky Smith in Marks and Spencer's in town. We chatted for 20 minutes about Big John McNamee. Your article in the Chronicle was superb. Jinky said that John looked after him on the park.
Jinky was absolutely in bits when Big John's death was confirmed. Jinky was is a big Celtic fan, obviously a big Newcastle United fan, but a big Celtic fan, and McNamee is an absolute legend up there, and I know that Jinky was a super friend, went over to see him in Cockermouth, etc., and we're all in bits to hear the news, but the funeral's on December the 17th in Cockermouth. So, and I know Newcastle United players from my generation are going over for that. So, when he met Jinky, I bet Jinky nutmegged him even in Marks and Sparks, because Jinky's never lost the wish to slip the ball through people's legs. I think he would definitely nutmeg our friend when he saw him. He was an entertainer, and his time was Jinky.
Yeah, certainly was. Obviously, from my perspective, I never saw him play. I've seen some wonderful footage of him, though, and a top player and a top guy. Got to meet him many times in the town, and lovely fella. Alan Little just wants to say, John, I agree totally with your 5 top tune managers in the latest fanzine. Hopefully you've got yours, John. I did post yours off. So
I did indeed. Many thanks, Steve.
Good stuff. Hope you've enjoyed it as well. Barry says, John, there are rumours today that we might go for Ferguson at Brighton in the transfer window. Would you go for him?
I would go for anybody that can play centre forward at the moment, because we're desperately in need of backup. I mean, after what happened at Palace, when Isaac had to come off and Callum Wilson wasn't able to last 70 minutes, so he couldn't come on, and Sula was on the bench, fit as a lot, but wasn't given any time at all. We are really threadbare up there, and really we're not doing Anthony Gordon. He can play a false 9, but he's not a natural finisher. He's not a natural centre forward. He doesn't want to play there, and we lose what he gives us as an outside left when he plays centre forward. Ferguson is a kid with a real. I think he scored a hat trick against us. He's a kid with a real future ahead of him. He's finding it tough to get in the Brighton side at the moment. But I mean, what do we need and what will we get? That's what's going to be interesting this January, because I don't want us to be let down again, Steve, by doing what we've done in the last 2 windows, which is virtually nothing. I mean, we could do with a centre forward. We certainly need an outside right. Do we go for a centre half? But we're not going to get all 3. And I'm desperate for an outside right. I mean, we cannot go through the rest of the season messing about Harvey Barnes and Anthony Gordon and Joe Linton to play outside right, and if we're going to sell Miggy, that frees up a peg and gives us an extra couple of quid. And you don't want. I mean, I like Jacob Murphy as a bloke, and I like his enthusiasm, and I like what he brings when he comes off the bench. He's not a regular starter. He not in a top 6 Premier League side, which is what we want to be. So we've got to get a winger as well. But when we bought Asula, it's interesting. I mean, he might become one of the great players, and I hope he does. But we bought him for tomorrow. And what bothers me, if I'm truthful, Steve, is we've got to look after today before we look after tomorrow, because today hasn't been going too well results-wise. We need to improve the team today, not just tomorrow.
Craig Lee, the question for John: do you think Eddie knows his best team?
Great question. Do we know the best team? I mean, I think that Eddie would probably say, outside of Botman, that his best team was the one he fielded against Liverpool. Outside of Botman, Willock has the potential to be a top midfield player, because he's great at getting up the field quickly, etc. But with the injuries he's had, he's been strangely missing a lot of the time he's been on the field recently, and I don't think he's done himself any good, and I don't think he's an automatic first teamer, sadly, which is what he looked when he come here and was scoring 7 successive matches, etc. I don't think that Eddie has known, and I think that's why we've been getting changes upon changes. He doesn't know how to solve the outside right problem, and he doesn't know how to solve the problem of Tonali and Bruno in the middle of the park. He can solve Tonali and Bruno by working on the training ground. You can't solve the outside right position without going into the transfer market.
Okay, George Bainbridge says that, which was Gibbo's favourite promotion season as his time as a Newcastle fan? He says, mine was with Chris Hughton because it was unexpected.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I've got so much time for Chris Hughton, because I think at a time of absolute chaos, and there was chaos off the field, and chaos on the field with all the different managers we had, with Mike Ashley, the owner, and with the managers we had when we went through McLaren and we went through Joe Kinnear and Pardew and Bruce and you would have thought Ashley had been here for 30 years, the number of managers we went through. But Chris Hughton, sometimes in as caretaker, sometimes just the coach had come in and then went out again and then come in again, was a calming influence, and he brought calming influence to troubled waters. And he was terrific for us. I've enjoyed every promotion because we've actually been winning things, because that's what happens when you get promotion. And then in the past, when we've gone in the top division, we haven't won things. Although the great exception, yes, we didn't win anything, but the entertainers years when we were twice runners up in the Premier League, and the Bobby Robson years when we finished third and fourth in the Premier League, they were wonderful times. We've got to steady this ship and get it pointing in the right direction to bring that about again.
Tom says, John, would you loan out to Sula in January?
I think I would, because he needs experience. And yes, they say we can work on him in training, etc., etc. But he's not playing. He's not playing for the first team. He's not playing for the under 23s. He's not playing anywhere, and he needs experience. If we're going to use him as much in the second half of the season, or I should say as little as we have in the first half of the season, then he's pointless sitting on the bench, because he's never bought off. When we needed a centre forward desperately at Palace, we had two on the bench, and Callum Wilson and Asula. And what did we do? We put a left winger at centre forward and didn't bring either of those two on. If that's going to happen, let Asula go out and get some experience, and then he might benefit from that next season.
Yeah, I mean, Asula, I think, has got the potential in him. I can see it. I think he needs games, and it's interesting. People saying about Miley. Mark Bayer says I can see Miley being loaned out in January. Don't think that's a bad idea at all, Mark. Didn't do Sean Longstaff any harm when he went away and got a bit of experience under Clarkey.
It didn't do Elliot Anderson any harm when he went out to Bristol Rovers, etc. When he was with us, and he came back and made some impact here, and then got a big money transfer to Nottingham Forest. Miley needs games. After his injuries, is another situation. What's the point if having Asula and Miley sitting 8 and 9 on the bench, numbers 8 and 9, and virtually not getting on at all? That's why Miley's been playing in the reserves the last couple of times. There's no future in that for the lad, having tasted so much last season of the first team, but he needs games. And I know the caution is, what if we're suddenly hit by injuries like we were last season, and what happens? But when you think, when we've got the three from last night, and we've got Willock and we've got Longstaff, we're well covered in the midfield. Let Miley get some games, let Asula get some games, and that can be to our benefit for next season.
Denise, I agree. Asula should go out on loan. His enthusiasm is outstanding. He is working hard, so we should look after that and invest in it by getting him some experience. And Davey Eddie says Asula might be used in the cups, but I agree he needs playing time. And Ian Brownlee fancies Miley to start. I mean, look, he played so many games. Ian, I'm not going to argue against you. Eddie's the man who sees what he sees, though. I think the fact that they spent so much money on Tonali always guarantees Tonali, as long as he's playing well, of course, a start in that team. And he's just had to find a way of getting him in. He's not going to drop any of that midfield for Miley. The only thing that would change things, I guess, are injuries. Michael says, quite a question. Talking of up top, do you think Wilson's getting a taxi to the airport in January, John? Or do you think he's going to feature over the Christmas period? We're not seeing a great deal of Wilson, are we? And, there's no change there, John.
Oh, I mean, honestly, no, there's no change whatsoever. I love his enthusiasm. I mean, he's not just talking about playing centre forward for Newcastle again, but possibly getting an England squad. I mean, there's more chance of a pink pig flying past the window. It just isn't happening for the lad. He's got, at his age, the wrong side of 30, with his history of injuries. We cannot rely on him. Of course, he's a good player when he's fit, but when is he fit? How often is he fit? And as long as he's at this club, Eddie will see him as our number 2 centre forward. and therefore we will not get an experienced goal-scoring number 9. We'll have a number 3 like a Sula, who's raw at the edges, isn't ready yet in Eddie's eyes. Never mind our eyes. And Eddie's what counts because he's got to put the people on the field. We have got Isaac and nobody else. Wilson's not fit enough to play 70 minutes down at Palace, and Asula is not ready to play 7 minutes. So we are flying by the seat of our pants with centre forward, and that is the one position where you can't. I mean, that is the blue chip position. That's the blue-eyed boys. You've got to have a good centre forward, and we have one, but we've only got one. And you need more than one, believe you me. And we've got to do something about that, either in January or somehow get through to the end of the season when you know. Eddie would be talking about giving a new contract to Wilson, and Wilson about getting back in the England team. Both of those things seem so far off in the future that, to me, is to be a nonsense.
Okay, Newcastle travel to Brentford. It's a good old-fashioned 3 o'clock kickoff this Saturday, so no TV coverage. All 1,700 plus tickets for the away end have been sold, as you would expect. They've got a decent home record, Brentford. They have won their last 6 home games, bagging 22 goals. I mean, this really is a tough game on paper. But when you look at Newcastle's record there over the last few seasons, win, win, win. And Newcastle coming off the back of a wonderful 3-3 draw with Liverpool. Referees Tim Robinson, first time in the middle for a Newcastle game this season. VAR wasn't switched on last night. Will it be switched on Saturday? Is the best a man can get. Jared Gillette. John, feelings about this game and a prediction, please.
Well, it's going to be very interesting because they are the best, that currently, and I've said this already, the best Premier League home team bar none, and that's bar Liverpool. They've got the best Premier League home record. They've also got the second worst Premier League away record, where they've won none, and they are just the pussycats on the road and the raging bulls at home. And the reason I mention both is we're going to see both in the next couple of weeks, because we've got them away on Saturday and then we've got them at home in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. Now, we have got to treat them in the way we treat Liverpool, because their home record, as far as Saturday is concerned, their home record is superb. It is better than the home record of Liverpool. What I'm hoping for is that Newcastle take the attitude that they had against Liverpool into this match, and not the attitude they had at Crystal Palace. And I've got a feeling that Brentford's home record, they're punching above their weight. And I had that feeling when we went to Nottingham Forest. They were third or fourth in the table. They'd only lost one game at that stage. They'd won at Liverpool. And I felt they were running towards a fall, because they weren't as good as their record suggested. And I'm hoping that's exactly the same with Brentford. They're not as bad as their away record makes them look, but they're not as good as their home record makes them look. So I'm looking that perhaps we can catch them in the way we caught Forest. It all depends on each and every individual. And if I was Eddie, I would lock them in a room and look each one in the eye and say, are you up for this? Are you going to do it for yourself? Not for the fans, not for me, not for the club badge. Let's get rid of all that rubbish. Do it for yourself, because we'll all benefit if you do. And if we have the right attitude, we can win. If we have the wrong attitude, we'll come out with a poor display and probably get beat. I mean, I think it'll probably be a draw. But I think they could be riding for a fall. And if we take the attitude, never mind the performance, Steve, if we take the attitude right against Liverpool, we win.
Prediction? 2-2?
I'm going 1-1.
1-1. Okay, I'm going to go for a win. I think Newcastle will win this game. I think you're right. I think that the bubble's going to burst at Brentford. It certainly did against Villa. They'll be reeling from that. And these games, as you come into this festive period, come thick and fast. I'm going to go for a win. I am going to go for a 3-1. I think Newcastle can do the business. I think we found our scoring boots. I think they'll continue the momentum, and I'm going to see a 3-1 win at the weekend. So fingers crossed for that. As always, thank you everybody for watching. There's been 300 watching on Twitter. I have broadcast on Twitter tonight. If you like what you see and you enjoyed the show, search NUFC Matters on YouTube and hit the subscribe button. It is free. We do 7 shows a week. John, thanks very much, my friend. See you next week. Look forward to that. Take care.
Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.